What would you do if you found a second engagement ring in your fiancé's luggage and realized it wasn't for you? That's the nightmare Julia faced, and the truth she uncovered, it destroyed everything.
I always told myself I trusted Aaron. We'd been together for 3 years, engaged for 6 months, and I genuinely believed we were building a future together. But that night, everything changed. It started innocently enough. Aaron had just returned from a work trip, and like I always did, I offered to help unpack his luggage. He smiled and shook his head, saying he'd do it himself, but I insisted. It was a habit, a small domestic thing I thought showed I cared. And then I saw it. A small velvet box tucked between his neatly folded shirts. At first, my heart leapt. Engagement ring? Surely this was it. A romantic gesture, something he had planned while away. My hands trembled as I picked it up. But the moment I opened it, excitement crashed into confusion. The ring was beautiful, delicate, unmistakably for a woman. My engagement ring glinted on my finger as I held this new one in my hand. My stomach sank. Aaron walked into the room then, towel around his waist, hair still damp from the shower. I didn't speak. I just held the box in front of him, my hands shaking. His eyes widened for the briefest moment, and I knew he'd been caught. It's not what it looks like, he stammered. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but something in me froze. I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to see the truth. Still, the velvet box felt heavier in my hand than it should have. It wasn't just a piece of jewelry. It was a lie, a secret, a betrayal. And in that moment, I realized something I never wanted to admit. The Aaron I loved might not be the man I thought he was. After that night, nothing felt the same. I kept staring at the ring in my hand, turning it over, examining every detail, hoping somehow it would tell me it wasn't what I feared. But the truth was glaring. Aaron had been hiding something, or someone, from me. The next morning, I tried to act normal. Breakfast felt heavy, like swallowing concrete. I watched Aaron move around the kitchen, making coffee, humming to himself, pretending nothing had happened. And in that pretense, I saw the first real crack, his avoidance. "You're quiet," he said, trying to force a smile. "Everything okay?" I hesitated, searching for a reason not to shatter the fragile calm. "Yeah, I'm fine," I lied. I lied because I didn't want to believe him capable of this. I lied because my heart refused to confront what it already knew. But the lie didn't fool me. Every time he glanced at me, there was a flicker of guilt in his eyes. The way he avoided meeting my gaze, the way his hand lingered nervously over the counter, it was all too deliberate. I spent the day replaying every memory with him, every work trip, every late night, every small excuse that never quite added up. Slowly, an uncomfortable pattern emerged. There had been whispers of secrecy in his routine, little inconsistencies I had brushed aside as normal quirks. And now they screamed the truth. That evening, I tried to confront him again, gently this time. "Aaron, can we talk about the ring?" He froze, just like he did when I first found it. Then, with a nervous laugh, he said, "It's nothing, Julia. I was just holding it for a friend. You know, she's going through something and needed a little help." A friend? My chest tightened. My mind screamed that this wasn't plausible. But he sounded so sincere, so convincing. And despite every warning bell ringing inside me, I let it slide, for now. Deep down, I knew this was only the beginning. The first lie had been told, but the story behind that ring was far from over. Over the next few days, I found myself scrutinizing every action Aaron took. When he said he was going to the gym, why did he come home later than usual? When he answered phone calls in hushed tones, why did he get so defensive if I asked who it was? It wasn't paranoia. I tried to tell myself it was, but deep down, my gut refused to lie. There was something there, a thread of truth that couldn't be ignored. I started making mental notes. Late-night texts, unexplained calendar entries, sudden shifts in his mood. And with each small detail, the seed of doubt grew, spreading roots through the foundation of our relationship. I spoke to Amanda that weekend, careful not to sound hysterical. "I found something, a ring, but he says it's nothing." Amanda didn't hesitate. "Julia, trust your instincts. He's hiding something, I can feel it. Don't ignore it." Her words should have terrified me, but instead, they felt like confirmation. I wasn't overreacting. Something was happening. Something I wasn't supposed to know. Aaron had changed, though he didn't admit it. Nights at home felt empty now, as if we were strangers sharing the same apartment. The warmth that used to linger in his hugs, the playful teasing over dinner, the gentle touches when I leaned on him, all of it had faded, replaced by a polite distance I couldn't penetrate. I tried to bridge the gap, suggesting movie nights, casual walks, even talking about future plans. He nodded, smiled, agreed, but the effort felt hollow, rehearsed. Each attempt left me more aware of the distance growing between us. Even small things bothered me. How he answered texts, quick, guarded, his phone often slipping out of sight when I entered the room. How he lingered just a little too long at the door when leaving. almost as if avoiding a moment of truth. Every subtle action sent a chill down my spine. I began keeping mental notes, obsessively observing patterns in his routine. Late-night showers, unexplained absences, quick excuses. I tried to rationalize, tell myself I was imagining things, but the gnawing feeling refused to fade. The house that had once felt like our safe space now felt suffocating. Silence replaced laughter. Polite words replaced intimacy. And in that quiet, I realized the truth I had been avoiding. Aaron was pulling away, and I couldn't reach him anymore. It happened one evening while we were watching a movie. Aaron's phone buzzed beside him, and he instinctively glanced at it, chuckling at the message. Then, almost accidentally, he said, "Harper said," and quickly cut himself off. My blood ran cold. Harper. The name sent a shiver straight through me. I stared at him, silent. Panic flashed across his face, quick and fleeting, before he forced a casual laugh. "What?" "I didn't say anything," he muttered, trying to downplay it. But I knew. The ring, the late-night calls, the odd excuses, the careful avoidance, it all pointed to the same terrifying conclusion. Harper wasn't just a friend. She was part of his secret life, and I was the one left in the dark. Fear, anger, betrayal, all of it collided inside me. I wanted answers. I wanted confrontation. I wanted to scream and demand the truth, but instead I stayed silent, gripping my coffee mug like a lifeline, waiting for him to slip again. For the first time, I realized that living with Aaron felt like walking through a house full of shadows. Every corner, every glance, every small movement could hide a secret, and I was desperate to uncover them all before it was too late. By the weekend, the weight of my suspicions became unbearable. I couldn't focus at work, couldn't eat properly, and every time Aaron laughed or smiled, a small pang of anxiety tore through me. I needed someone to talk to, someone who could see clearly when I was too close to the chaos to make sense of it. Amanda was the only person I trusted enough. I met her at our favorite coffee shop, tucked into the corner where no one could overhear. My hands were shaking as I clutched my mug. "Amanda, I found something," I began. "A ring, but he says it's nothing." Amanda didn't flinch. She didn't hesitate. She leaned forward, eyes steady, voice calm but firm. "Julia, trust your instincts. He's hiding something. I can feel it. Don't ignore it." Her words hit me like a shockwave. Part of me wanted to deny it, wanted to believe Aaron's explanation, wanted to hold on to the illusion. But the other part, the part that had been gnawing at me for days, felt validated, even relieved. I wasn't overreacting. Something was happening and I needed to face it. We sat in silence for a moment, sipping our coffee. Amanda gently urged me to start paying attention, to notice the subtle patterns and inconsistencies I had been dismissing as paranoia. She didn't push me toward confrontation yet. She knew I needed time to gather evidence, to prepare myself for the inevitable truth. Walking back home that afternoon, my mind replayed everything. The late-night texts, the hushed phone calls, the little lies. The small distance Aaron had been cultivating between us suddenly became glaringly obvious. I had been living with a stranger under the guise of love, and the realization terrified me. A few days later, curiosity overpowered fear. I knew I had to see for myself. Going through Aaron's wallet was the last thing I wanted to do, but my intuition screamed at me. I needed confirmation, proof that the unease in my chest wasn't just paranoia. The moment I found the receipt, my stomach sank. It was for the very ring I had discovered, dated 2 months ago. The price, the details, everything confirmed what I already suspected. This wasn't a gift for a friend. This was deliberate. I stared at it, frozen, a cold numbness spreading through me. The receipt wasn't just paper, it was proof of betrayal. Every excuse Aaron had given me suddenly sounded rehearsed, hollow, and fake. The reality was suffocating. I tried to distract myself, busying my hands with chores, but my mind kept replaying every memory. Every trip he'd said was for work. Every call he claimed was urgent. Every secretive smile. It all fit together into a picture I didn't want to see. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the velvet box and receipt on my bedside table. I realized then that Aaron's deception ran deeper than I had imagined. This wasn't a small secret. It was a second life, carefully hidden beneath layers of lies. I couldn't hold it in any longer. I had to know, even if the answer shattered me. "Aaron, we need to talk about the ring," I said one evening, my voice trembling but resolute. He froze instantly, his usual calm demeanor cracking. "Julia, it's not what you think," he said, hesitation in every word. I stepped closer, forcing eye contact. "Then explain it to me. Please, I need to understand." He swallowed hard, glanced away, and finally muttered, I was holding it for a friend. She needed help. I wanted to believe him. I wanted desperately to dismiss the receipt, the texts, the strange behavior, but his voice, though soft, carried a weight of guilt that betrayed him. Something about his eyes, the way he avoided mine, made it impossible to ignore the truth simmering beneath his words. I left the room without another word, clutching the box in my hand. My heart was heavy, full of questions I wasn't sure I wanted the answers to, but I knew this confrontation was only the beginning. In the days that followed, the late-night calls became impossible to ignore. I would wake up to the sound of his phone vibrating softly, and though I tried to ignore it, My curiosity burned too fiercely. One night, I overheard a hushed conversation. "Harper, yes, I know, tomorrow," Aaron whispered, his voice low but urgent. My blood ran cold. Harper, that name again. I crouched silently in the hallway listening. Every word he spoke, every pause, every tone, confirmed what my heart already knew. There was someone else, someone real, and I was being kept in the dark. Sleep became impossible. Anxiety consumed me. I couldn't focus. I couldn't eat. And I couldn't stop replaying that single word over and over. Harper. Desperate for answers, I began paying closer attention. Aaron's work trips suddenly made sense in a pattern I couldn't ignore. His phone calls, the messages, the vague excuses, they all connected. I noticed his little routines, leaving the apartment at odd hours, sudden showers, quick texts hidden from view. My heart raced with every realization, every small detail pointing to the same conclusion. Harper was part of his secret life, and I had been living alongside it, oblivious. Each day, the invisible wall between us grew taller. Every smile he forced, every touch he offered, felt like part of a carefully constructed illusion. And with every new piece of evidence, I felt both terrified and strangely empowered. I needed to know the truth, no matter how painful. It was during a quiet Thursday evening that I finally discovered Harper's full identity. Aaron had carelessly left his laptop unlocked while he showered, and my curiosity, mingled with dread, pushed me to check. Scrolling through his emails and social media, I found a thread of messages between him and Harper. They weren't casual. They were intimate, full of plans and private jokes, familiar references only the two of them would understand. Photos, addresses, even travel confirmations, all confirming their closeness. My hands shook as I clicked through each message. I stared at a picture of them at a cafe, laughing together. The familiarity in their smiles, the ease in their body language. It wasn't just friendship. My chest tightened so sharply I thought I might collapse. All the pieces suddenly clicked. The ring, the hushed phone calls, the sudden work trips, the vague excuses. Aaron had been planning a future with her behind my back. The velvet box, once a symbol of hope, now burned in my memory as a mark of deceit. I felt sick, dizzy, and tears threatened to spill. Harper, that was her name. And the reality hit harder than I had imagined. Aaron wasn't just lying. He was living a double life. And I had been too blind, too trusting, too desperate to see it. For days, I replayed every moment with Aaron. Every conversation, every promise he had made. Things that had seemed insignificant now felt like pieces of a puzzle that finally made sense. The sudden weekend trips, the unexplained messages, the fleeting glances that never met my eyes. I remembered the mornings he would leave with a smile but return later than expected. The nights he claimed to be working but was unreachable for hours. Every lie, every tiny inconsistency, every excuse came together in a horrifying picture. Aaron had been living a parallel life, with Harper at its center. The house, once my sanctuary, now felt like a stage for deception. I could almost see him rehearsing the lies, the careful steps to ensure I remained oblivious. I had been living with a stranger under the guise of love. And the pain wasn't just in the lies themselves. It was in the betrayal of trust, the realization that the man I loved, the man I thought I could rely on, had never truly been mine. Desperation overtook fear. I needed proof, undeniable proof, before confronting him. When Aaron was out one afternoon, I sat at his desk and scrolled through his laptop. Emails, messages, photos. The evidence of his betrayal unfolded before me like a horror story. Plans for dates, romantic messages, and future promises to Harper lined the screen. Every click revealed a new wound, every image a dagger to my heart. I realized the extent of the deception. He had been weaving two lives together, balancing us both without remorse. I felt a mix of anger, sadness, and disbelief. How could someone live such a lie? How could he pretend to love me while building a future with another woman? I closed the laptop, breathing shakily, and sat in the silence of the living room. I had proof now. I couldn't ignore it, and there would be no going back. The confrontation would come, but first, I needed to steel myself for what I would face. The messages confirmed it. Aaron had been planning to propose to Harper. The ring I had found in his luggage was not for me. It was a symbol of his duplicity. A token for another woman while I had been dreaming of a future together. I couldn't breathe. Every memory of our engagement, every plan we had made suddenly felt tainted. The thought of him kneeling in front of Harper, whispering the words he had once promised me, made my stomach twist violently. It wasn't just betrayal. It was humiliation. I had been living with a man who had been preparing a proposal for someone else, while I thought I was his world. The anger and heartbreak collided inside me, leaving me breathless. And yet a small voice in my head reminded me I needed to stay calm. I needed to be smart. He had underestimated me. But I would not allow him to control the narrative anymore. That night, I sat alone in our bedroom, holding both the velvet box and my engagement ring. Tears streamed down my face, hot and relentless. The realization that Aaron had deceived me cut deeper than I could have imagined. My heart felt shattered, fragmented in ways I didn't think possible. Memories of laughter, love, intimacy, all felt poisoned now. Every smile he had given me, every whispered "I love you," every plan for the future had been a lie. I thought of Harper, of the life they had secretly built together while I remained in the dark. Anger flared, then despair, then a crushing weight of betrayal that left me numb. I knew I couldn't confront him yet. I needed to think, to plan, to find strength in the chaos. But one truth had become painfully clear. Aaron had not just betrayed my heart, he had shattered it entirely. The days that followed were unbearable. Living with Aaron felt like existing alongside a stranger, someone I had once loved but no longer recognized. Every laugh, every casual touch, every whispered word now carried the weight of deceit. I watched him move around the apartment, careful not to reveal anything, pretending that nothing had changed. But the tension between us was tangible, like a cord stretched taut, ready to snap. I realized with horror that I had been living in his shadow, unaware of the life he had secretly constructed. Every night I lay awake, reliving the messages, the emails, the photos I had found. He had been maintaining two lives with meticulous care, one with me, the other with Harper. The thought made my stomach churn and my chest tighten. I tried to remind myself that this wasn't my fault. I had loved him honestly, trusted him without question. Yet the betrayal gnawed at me relentlessly, leaving no corner of my mind untouched. The house that had once been our sanctuary now felt like a prison, every room a reminder of his lies. And yet, amidst the heartbreak, a small spark of clarity began to form. I could not change the past, but I could reclaim my present. I could no longer allow his deception to dictate my life. The first step toward freedom, I realized, was acknowledgement, seeing the truth in its raw, painful entirety. By accident, I ran into Harper. She was charming, innocent-looking, completely unaware that I had discovered the truth. Seeing her in the cafe, laughing as if nothing had happened, made my stomach twist. She had no idea how intricately their lives had been entwined, while I suffered in ignorance. Part of me wanted to confront her, to scream, to demand answers. Another part wanted to flee, to escape the reality that Harper was now a real figure in the story of my heartbreak. I watched her leave, feeling a mixture of anger, betrayal, and an unexpected pang of sympathy. Maybe she hadn't known the full extent of Aaron's deceit either, but it didn't matter. The damage was done, and I was left with the aftermath. Returning home, I realized something profound. The other woman existed. But the real betrayal wasn't just Harper. It was Aaron. He had built a life on lies, manipulating both of us without remorse. Every memory came back to me in vivid, painful detail. Every promise Aaron had made, every whispered forever, now felt like mockery. The realization was suffocating. I had been part of a story in which I had no control, a script written entirely by someone else. I remembered nights spent waiting for him to come home, hoping for affection, only to receive distracted smiles or empty words. I remembered our conversations, our laughter, our plans. All of it had been part of his performance, a careful masking of his true intentions. The truth hit me hard. Aaron had not simply betrayed me. He had constructed a double life, expertly balancing love and deceit, planning a future with Harper while pretending I was his world. And I had been blind, caught in the illusion of his love. Eventually, I couldn't hold the secret any longer. I told my family everything. Their shock mirrored my own, though theirs was mixed with anger. My parents were furious, demanding explanations. My friends were stunned, some in disbelief, others offering fierce support. Aaron's lies could no longer remain hidden. The truth had emerged, raw and undeniable. Every question my family asked, every worried glance, only reinforced what I already knew. I had been deceived by the man I loved most in the world. Sharing the truth was terrifying, but it also brought a strange relief. The burden of secrecy lifted, replaced by a painful clarity. I wasn't alone anymore. I had allies, people who would help me navigate the wreckage he had left behind. I made the hardest decision of my life. The wedding was off. The dress, the venue, the carefully planned life, all canceled. The dreams I had built with Aaron were gone, replaced by a crushing sense of loss. Even arranging the cancellations felt surreal. Every call, every email, reminded me of what I had almost lost completely to a lie. The engagement ring, once a symbol of love and hope, now felt like a relic of betrayal, standing in what was supposed to be our future home. I felt a mix of grief and liberation. The life I imagined with Aaron had been an illusion, and though it hurt to let go, I realized that leaving behind the deception was the first step toward reclaiming my own life. That night, I sat alone in our apartment, staring at the engagement ring and the velvet box that had caused all this chaos. The weight of the betrayal pressed down on me like a physical force, and I could no longer hold back the tears. They came in silent streams at first, then in sobs that shook my entire body. I thought of the moments Aaron had shared with Harper, the hidden dinners, secret trips, whispered plans, and my chest ached with a mixture of rage and heartbreak. How could someone I loved, trusted, and believed in so completely orchestrate a life so meticulously without me? The breakdown wasn't just emotional, it was a physical release. For years, I had held back doubt, suspicion, and fear, forcing myself to trust. forcing myself to believe in love. And now all those suppressed feelings erupted, leaving me raw, exposed, and trembling. I realized in that moment that I had to confront him, not just for answers, but for my own sanity. I needed to hear the truth from his mouth, to witness the unraveling of the man I thought I knew. And I knew it would hurt, perhaps more than I could bear. The confrontation came one evening, tense and unavoidable. Aaron sat on the couch, pretending calm while I paced, my chest tight with a mixture of fear and fury. "I know about Harper," I said, voice quivering but firm. "I know everything. The messages, the trips, the ring, all of it." He froze, eyes wide, the mask slipping from his face. "Julia, No, don't lie," I interrupted, tears threatening to spill. "I have proof. I've seen it all. How could you do this? How could you plan a life with her while pretending I was your future?" He tried to speak, stammering, but I didn't let him. Every excuse, every apology, every half-hearted justification was meaningless. The man I loved was gone, replaced by someone who had lied and manipulated without remorse. By the end of the confrontation, I felt exhausted but strangely liberated. I had voiced my pain, demanded accountability, and no longer had to carry the weight of ignorance. Leaving Aaron was inevitable. I packed my essentials, arranged a temporary stay with Amanda, and prepared to reclaim my life. Every item I packed, every step I took, felt like shedding layers of deceit, fear, and heartbreak. The apartment, once a shared sanctuary, became a cage I was determined to escape. Each locked door, each whispered memory, reminded me of his duplicity. I realized that freedom wasn't just leaving him, it was leaving behind the life I had imagined with him. I didn't look back. The pain was immense. But the clarity of independence, the knowledge that I was no longer a pawn in his double life, gave me strength. The weeks that followed were difficult, yet transformative. Therapy sessions, long walks, journaling. Every act was a step toward reclaiming myself. I rebuilt routines, focused on work, and reconnected with friends and family who had been my support system. The ring and velvet box remained in a drawer, symbols of betrayal but also reminders of resilience. I allowed myself to grieve, to feel the hurt fully, but I refused to let it define me. Slowly, I began to breathe freely again, to laugh without fear, and to trust myself first. Months later, I could reflect without immediate pain, though the scars remained. The second ring, once a symbol of betrayal, had become a symbol of awakening. I had learned that love, trust, and hope could be tainted, but my strength, courage, and self-respect were mine alone. I didn't hate Aaron. I pitied him for his inability to love honestly, for the lives he had manipulated, and for the loss of the person I had been willing to give everything to. And I had Harper, though a painful reminder, to thank in a way. She had inadvertently revealed the truth I needed to reclaim my life. I was free, scars intact, heart cautious, but alive, whole, and aware. The journey had been devastating, but it had also been a lesson in strength, self-worth, and resilience. I had found truth where lies once lived, and I would never surrender it again.
Sometimes the deepest betrayal doesn't come from strangers, it comes from the person you thought would spend forever with you. Julia's story shows us that no matter how painful the truth is, choosing yourself will always be stronger than living inside a lie. Now, I want to hear from you. What would you have done if you found a second engagement ring in your fiancé's luggage? Would you have confronted him right away, or walked away quietly like Julia did? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story hit you hard, trust me, the next one will leave you speechless. Don't forget to tap that subscribe button and join us for the next chapter of Lies and Regrets. Until then, remember, the right person will never make you question if you're enough.